Good morning and welcome to our first podcast for the Yorkshire Leadership Group. I'm here with Dr. Dave Hall, who has just delivered a masterclass. Dave is from the Ideas Centre and the masterclass was on the strategic role of creativity. Good morning, Dave.
Good morning, Lisa.
Can you just give us a brief summary of what you've covered this morning and some of the main themes?
In brief, the main themes that we introduced in the masterclass are an understanding of the things that happen inside the head of anyone inside any organisation that effectively lock them in conventional and traditional thinking. There are things that happen in all our heads, mental blocks that exist, that trap us in a world of what is. And what we need to do is understand how those work, to then appreciate that there are a range of techniques that, once understood, will allow us to systematically escape that world of what is, to start to drive the innovation process.
Which areas did you feel that the group most engaged with today?
I think there are kind of two main areas that I think the group engaged with to the maximum extent. One was an understanding of the mental blocks. There are two very clear areas of activity. One is that we tend to rush in and solve problems before we understand them, and there's a reason why that happens. The other is the fact that we operate as patterning systems and make sense of our worlds by looking backwards. And there's a reveal moment where people have a penny dropping moment and they begin to understand how some of their behaviours have been governed by blocks that they didn't previously know existed. So once they understand that, then delivering the creativity techniques and showing how unusual they are, they tend to capture the imagination that once people understand the blocks and why they're doing it, the apparent frivolity of the techniques gets lost because they're all about developing a mechanism to overcome the mental blocks, and they become very, very real, and that strikes a chord in anyone.
And what kind of success have you found that you've had with your own clients when they've employed these techniques?
In terms of embedding these techniques within client organisations, there are two main thrusts of the benefit. One is on a rifle shot basis, identifying key problem areas and generating breakthrough thinking. What these techniques do in a very structured way is allow you to become unconstrained, and you develop thought processes that come from within that deliver that breakthrough result that in retrospect looks obvious, but which in foresight was invisible to the problem owner. So you have those breakthrough moments. The other key element is that the techniques contribute to a culture change, that anyone involved with these techniques walks away quite different. Yeah. They think differently. They have a different understanding of the way that they are addressing problem-solving processes. And that lasts throughout all their working environment, provided it becomes part of the culture of the organisation. And that's the transformation we're looking to effect.
So this kind of thing is transferable, really, throughout their career in any business, any size, any sector?
Absolutely. These techniques apply in any walk of life. These techniques are what's to do with what's happening inside the brain. So there's no division between your work life and your private life. These techniques work in the home life and addressing family issues because the brain works in exactly the same way. We still become trapped and we become very narrow in our thinking. If you want to deliver breakthrough thinking in any walk of life, an exposure to these techniques is entirely transferable across that whole set of exposures.
I get that. So what are some of the key takeaways that you would like some of the business owners to take back to their workplace today and think about implementing?
The primary takeaways for me are an understanding of the way the brain limits our thinking processes. If you can understand what's happening inside the brains of others that's trapping them in conventional and traditional thinking, just telling people to think differently doesn't work. But there are a series of techniques that we can access that will give you a very structured way of challenging the thinking to release the potential. And one of the key elements within all this is naivety. One of the greatest assets within the creative process is naivety. It's creative gold dust, quite frankly. And yet it's the kind of thing that is normally disparaged within organisations. If you're having a meeting to solve a particular problem, why would you have someone who knows nothing about the problem present? Well, in creative terms, they are the creative gold dust because they are unconstrained in their thinking. And having an interaction between the naives and the experts in the room is what the magic is all about. And what you need are some techniques that will harness those two and provide a structure to that idea generation. So it's giving business owners and senior managers inside organisations the confidence that there are techniques that will allow them on a systematic basis to drive the breakthrough thinking that will then feed the innovation process.
In terms of moving forward, the next stage, what do you suggest that business owners do? You run some workshops, is that right?
We do. There are two elements to the process as far as introducing creativity into an organisation. One is understanding the background theory, the underpinning that provides the justification for the techniques in the first instance. So there's a Masterclass introduction so that people understand the basic rules. There's then a techniques workshop, which is an opportunity to get your hands dirty with the techniques, actually see how the techniques work in practice. We effectively create for half a day, where we do 2 or 3 different creative problem-solving techniques. I always describe them like martial arts for creativity. It's a safe place to come and practice some really quite unusual techniques. The learning curves are really steep, but you need to have a collection of like-minded individuals to play with, in inverted commas, in order to get the best out of the techniques and learn how to drive the facilitation process. So the techniques workshops are an ideal opportunity to get your hands dirty with the techniques, to build the confidence to then take them back to deliver in your own organisation.
Perfect. And then finally, just kind of what benefits do you see to this type of group, this, the Yorkshire Leadership Group, and this type of learning for business owners?
Where you've got a collection of business people meeting in this kind of networked environment, it plays to the absolute central core of the creative process. We all get trapped in our own individual worlds of what is, and by bringing a collection of individuals together from different organisations, each of them has a different perspective on the world. By bringing them all into the same room with a common aim to deliver the very best for each other, then what you've got is a pooling of many, many alternative pasts, which then gives you a greater pool of resource to drive the idea generation process moving forward. So this resonates beautifully with the creative process.
Perfect. Well, thank you so much. You've really enjoyed your session this morning.
Absolute pleasure.